Hello and welcome to WFN. I'm Lisa Pallavi Barbora and you're watching Career Changers. Career Changers is the series we've brought for all of you out there where we speak to successful women about their journey in how they moved from a job to a venture successfully. Our guest today is joining us all the way from Kansas City in the US. She has been in the financial services industry for nearly 3 decades and has had her own venture for almost 10 years now. Tracy St. John joins us from Kansas. Hi, Tracy.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good.
That's good. So we've woken up Tracy at an early hour to do this since our time zones are quite far apart. So thanks for that, Tracy.
Sure.
So Tracy, let's begin at the start and give our viewers a little glimpse of your long journey. And you had no plans of getting into finance. You wanted to be in the dance industry, but you moved here anyway. So can you tell us a little bit about how you started and how you chose to move then from an established career to having your own venture?
Sure. I actually, after college and a few other experiences, really just needed to get a job. And I took a job with a mutual fund company answering the telephones. So basically people that purchased a mutual fund would call and ask questions, and I would answer about 100 phone calls a day. So having no background, I learned a lot very fast. And what I learned in the 6.5 years of working there was that financial advisors would sell someone an investment or a mutual fund, but the person who bought it did not know anything about it, did not know the name of what they purchased. And even the financial advisors would ask me about what they sold. And I thought that was strange. I'm a telephone service representative educating the financial advisor that sold the mutual fund.
Wow, wow.
So that was my first hint that I don't think that's right.
What's wrong with the system? Yeah.
Exactly. So I really did every type of job in that department that I could, and ended up helping company retirement plans kind of behind the scenes with the money.
Right.
But I switched jobs and moved to a regional bank, and surprisingly got a job when I had no background in it, which was standing up in front of employees and explaining a company retirement plan to them.
Wow.
But I think with my telephone service background and knowledge, my new boss felt that I would have the information. I just needed to have the experience of standing up in front of people and speaking. So I did that, and I traveled around the middle of the United States quite a bit, going to different companies and explaining investments and a company retirement plan to the employees. And in that position, employees would come up after the meeting and say, "You're the first person where I actually understood what you said." And they
You had a
would
gift.
say, I don't know if it's a gift of teaching or not using the complicated words that so many financial advisors use. I think if we use the terminology in our industry to a regular person that really doesn't have the education, you're not going to connect with them.
Right.
So in that position, I learned so many people just wanted good advice and didn't want to be sold anything to get the advice, and they couldn't find someone they trusted. So in my position, I was able to give them that, but they would start asking me questions outside of the company retirement plan, and I was not educated on on answering those questions. So I did go back to college and received a master's degree in family financial planning just because of that.
That's amazing. I think, I sense a lot of perseverance in this because, you sort of identified what you were good at, what you were not, and made sure that you came up the curve in things that you were not as well.
Yeah.
So I wanted to also understand, now it's quite difficult sometimes to make these choices to switch careers like you did, or to, then leave that and start your own venture. If you were to identify a quality within yourself that has helped you make these difficult decisions in your professional life, what would it be? What would that one or two qualities be that have really pushed you or helped you?
I think you said it, which is perseverance. I feel like I've always had that quality. And my mother always said, don't give up. If there's something you believe in, just don't give up. Keep pushing forward. Even if you have setbacks, persevere.
Yeah. I think that's a great quality to have. How has that helped you in setting up your own venture? In the sense that, have you, come across any hurdles in your journey after you've set it up? And if you can, give us a few examples of the hard times and how you've sort of overcome those.
Sure. Well, it's always very hard to start, especially if you did not do financial planning with a company. So I viewed it as starting from scratch with no clients that I had connections with, very little money, and I was scared, of course. I have to admit that my husband having a job was a help for me starting with such a small dollar amount for a business. But that was probably the scariest part, is just leaving a paycheck and then not knowing when you were going to get paid. The next couple of hurdles were really, I worked out of my house, and not in the middle of the country, people look at your credibility different. They want to see you in person. They want to go to an office and meet with you, and they feel that you're credible. But if you live and work on the East Coast or the West Coast of the United States, a lot of people will just meet virtually. And again, in the Midwest, I had a few times where they didn't want to come to my house because that's where my business was. Yeah. And they did not want me to come to their house. Wow. And I feel coffee shops are not private. And it just that was a big challenge. So I had to step out and actually find office space separate from my home, which then is a big expense.
Yeah, that's an additional cost, isn't it?
Yes. And the other big hurdle, which is more about Kansas City, not so much in other places, but I live on the north side of the whole area, and all of the connections from my business life were on the south side, so the opposite side of the whole area. So I ended up setting up 2 offices on opposite sides, and that became a challenge of, do I need 2 offices? Am I paying too much? But people from the south side will not drive to the north side and the other way.
So do you still have 2 offices, or do you still have 2 offices or more? Okay.
I have 2 offices now. Even though everything is virtual and I'm working.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're talking and we're many thousands of miles away. So, yeah.
Yes. I think A couple other big hurdles for me have been overcapacity. And that is when you start this business and people hear about the type of business model where we're just charging by the hour or fee only, there's a big demand, and I did not know that until you start making connections. And I still struggle with blocking my time and getting the work done. And so the struggle or the hurdle of not having the work done at the time I'm meeting with a client and asking them to reschedule. That's very humbling, and I do not like doing that. So that still sometimes happens, but that's a work in progress still.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons of having too much, and many advisors here in the network I'm a part of just stop taking new clients, and I do not want to do that. So another hurdle is I don't like to say no. So
or maybe you just want to help more people, and
I do, and so I have to find out how.
Yes, but it's interesting because you kind of hit these hurdles and you find a solution around them. But you've done this now for long enough. However, did you ever have a plan B? Did you ever have a backup which you thought that if this doesn't happen, I'm going to do that?
Right. I did not, other than go back to work and get a job with a paycheck.
Yeah. I think the comfort of the paycheck is sometimes overrated, no? And I think the freedom of having your own venture is something that one should experience anyway.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so along the way, I'm sure you did have a lot of people who supported you. You did mention your husband. Did you need to lean on others to sort of ensure that your venture was actually moving in the right direction?
Of course. Yeah, definitely. My personality is I am not confident, which I know
it doesn't come across.
I don't feel that I have some mental struggles where I don't feel I'm smart enough, or I don't do it. I want to do it the best I possibly can. So I think, we're really good at criticizing ourselves or saying, you could be better, you could be better. So I fight that all the time. And so when I started, I realized I'm part of the Garrett Planning Network, and I felt, okay, I have a group. But when you join, you still don't know anyone. And for me, the intimidation of just, who do I want to connect with that fits with my personality that can help me? But I feel like once you find that and once you put yourself out there, the other members of your network will come to you, and they are there for you. And that's what I found is I have to stop being scared and just put the question out there or email one of the other advisors in the network and say, can you help me? I'm struggling with this issue and I don't know what direction to go. So that's really been helpful.
How far along in your journey, of setting up your venture, did you get to be part of the Garrett Planning Network?
I actually started the network before I started my business.
Okay.
So I was in the network for a year before I quit my last job and started my business.
So it actually helped you to interact with these people who are like-minded, who do the same kind of work, to understand what you were getting yourself into and then take the step.
Yes, and actually I ended up, even with the network, because it is large and there were smaller groups within the network that did their own thing on the side. And I was fortunate to be asked to be in a group of 6 women that we would have monthly phone calls. And during those phone calls, we'd bring up challenges or a question or a client situation we wanted another opinion on. So that has also been helpful along the way.
So basically like a community to kind of discuss all your professional hurdles and how to get over it. So it helps in that sense.
It does, and I don't know in India, well, I'm a member of the Financial Planning Association, and so that's another separate group of financial advisors in the Kansas City area, and they have also been, a lot of, guidance has been there. So the more people you can connect with in your industry and find those that you're comfortable talking to, the more you're going to have mentors and people there along the way.
Yeah, that does make sense actually.
Yeah.
And you did say that you're a people's person and you do like to interact with people, but often when you start your own venture, it can get a little lonely because you don't have, an office space and a lot of colleagues to meet, etc. What kind of self-motivation techniques do you use to sort of get through those lonely parts of it?
Sure. I think finding people to meet with and reaching out in your community and towns and cities. I was able to find a business network that didn't have a cost. You didn't have to pay anything to join. And those were just other people in your community that I didn't know. So finding ways to leave your house or leave your business and just meet other people. It could be volunteering, other things to just meet more people, and that builds your own connections and relationships along the way.
I think unlike being at a job, you have to make this conscious effort to say that, let's get up and go out there and meet people. Yeah.
I think because I'm a people person, I had to stop going out so much because I needed to stay and get work done.
Of course. Okay. Tracy, a couple of last things. Also, you're a fee-based advisor. You charge by the hour. In India, this concept of fee-based advisory is still picking up. We have that structure in place. We have the regulation in place. We are quite far from an hourly fee kind of a model, but nonetheless, in your initial days, did you face any trouble convincing people of this value for your fee? And if you did, then how did you kind of overcome that?
Sure. It's funny because the hourly fee model, even where I live, is still very new. And there are still so many people that really don't know about it. And what I find is most of the people that hire me, they have already read and educated themselves before they found me. So I have found that they already knew the type of financial advisor they were looking for. But for those that did not go through that process, I think the hardest part is they have to be confident they're willing to pay out of their bank account, and that's scary for them. And then it becomes, building trust and showing them the value that you're going to bring to them, that the money is going to be worth the value and the end guidance that they're going to get.
Okay, lastly, Tracy, what gives you this confidence that you are in this position to help people and that you will be able to find a solution for them? And at what stage in your professional career or the switch that you made did you realize that this was 100% true of what you do?
I don't think it took very long, probably about 3 or 4 years into my business. Uh, I have hardly done any marketing. So maybe 10% or less of my time is marketing. And I have that many potential clients finding me without me finding them. So that was kind of surprising. And maybe I forgot part of your question. I'm sorry.
So what I meant to ask you was that at what point were you completely confident that you are helping people and you're bringing that value to their lives?
Probably 4 or 5 years in, because at that point there were enough people that continued to reach out, and I never had a slowdown. And I started realizing, okay, I think the money will be there. It could be the same or higher depending on how much I want to push myself. But about 4 or 5 years in for me, because I didn't do any marketing.
Yes. So that does bring us back to where we started, which was perseverance. I think 4 years, 5 years to build your business, and then realize that it's at a stage where you're happy and satisfied with what you're doing for others, and they're coming back to you. So one has to keep at it, and then the best results come through, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Tracy, thank you so much for joining us. And it's, talking to you has been really great because you're so clear-headed about what you do and how you do it. So I'm sure that our viewers will take away a lot from this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity. Nice to meet you.